So we find ourselves now in the middle of Holy Week. And Holy Week is a both liturgically and I think spiritually and emotionally complex week. There are a lot of elements. There's the triumphal entry on Palm Sunday. There's just kind of this sort of dead space that is, to a certain extent, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we get to Maundy, Thursday, and the Last Supper and the washing of feet. The great tragedy and staggering moment of Good Friday, the emptiness of Holy Saturday, and then, of course, Easter. There's all of these incredible elements to this week. It's a complex and challenging week on a whole bunch of different levels. And each individual piece is significant and important and bears attention, paying attention to in its own way. But it tells a bigger story. And I had the privilege this weekend while I was at our church in St. Paul, Minnesota, to be introduced to the art of a guy by the name of Nathan Stromberg. And what he does, he's a collage artist that takes little pieces of pictures from everywhere imaginable and turns them into a different picture. That are pretty realistic, actually. There is this remarkable kind of, his art is really quite striking because it literally is a collage of individual little bits and pieces that creates a larger picture. I think that's a great image of what Holy Week is for us. There's a whole bunch of little pieces that in and of themselves are of interest, that provide some perspective on the whole and are worth investigating and taking a look at in detail. But ultimately, the whole week is a larger picture. It is about the saving action of God. Everything. From the beginning part where we're talking about sort of the triumphal entry of Jesus as king into Jerusalem, through that Last Supper, the institution of communion for us, of Eucharist that comes at the Last Supper, all of the details of the passion of Jesus, where so much happens, where there's so much betrayal, and there's so much injustice, and there's so much brutality, the death of Jesus, the emptiness of Holy Saturday, everything. There are all of these things that we might pay attention to. And then, of course, the incredible, mind-blowing, and life-changing reality of the resurrection on Easter Sunday. They're all pieces that are part of the big picture of God's salvation for us. And I guess my prayer is for all of us during Holy Week that we might, as I looked at these pieces done by this artist, and I looked carefully at little pieces that were kind of pasted together on this picture of a copper kettle. It was ultimately a copper kettle that had all these little pieces. As I looked at the individual pieces, they were interesting and fascinating and compelling in and of themselves. But then when you step back and see the larger thing, you understand the larger picture. And that's really what Holy Week is for us, individual pieces that come together to help us understand the larger picture of the magnificent and eternal and unspeakable work of salvation that comes to us in Christ Jesus, the Son of the living God. I pray that as you interact with those individual pieces this week, you will also have an opportunity to step back and see the larger glory of this work of salvation. A very happy Easter to you all.